Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. As you guys know, on this channel we cover build quality analysis quite often, where we take vehicles from each manufacturer and really see how they're screwed together. Starting on the exterior, typically what we do is go around, look at panel gaps, the fit and finish, just to really get an overall feel of the car. We'll then jump inside, talk a lot about interior materials, NVH and noise, creaks and rattles that we find in the car, and then lastly, talking about paint. This is a topic as a professional detailer that I care a lot about. Now in today's video, we're going to be taking you through the new launch series Tesla Model Y. And this car is special because it's actually made in the Fremont plant. If you guys remember, we've already done an Austin build. My friend Brandon Tesla Flex took delivery of his, one of the first in the country. We went through it and honestly, I was really impressed. Now this being a Fremont build, is it going to be the same? A nice improvement over last generation Model Y? I'm not sure, so let's find out. Welcome back and let's jump into it. Joining me in today's video is my friend Eric from Drive Protected. Eric has a very cool company located actually up in Canada that produces DIY paint protection film kits for all of the Teslas. And as you guys can see, this Quicksilver Tesla has been already stealth wrapped by Eric.
Yeah, so it's got our Defense Plus matte paint protection film on it. And I was super anxious to pick the car up because best-selling vehicle in 2024, gas or electric in the world. And it's a vehicle that I think, and I was actually here a few weeks ago to do a video about this, I think that this vehicle is going to be the best canvas for a do-it-yourself paint protection film install for someone who's not a professional. Someone looking to save some money and do the install themselves. There's no better vehicle than this. And yeah, I got the vehicle in. And do you want me to get into it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big topic that we're going to be talking about today is really Austin versus Fremont. My kind of feelings are the Austin factory has really improved. Of last generation Model Y, I saw a lot of cars that were really struggling in the paint category, in the fit and finish category. And on the flip side, Fremont has not really been known for that. So this being a Fremont car, I'm anxious to see, have they improved the new Model Y? Now, of course, you guys have probably watched some videos on out of spec reviews, even here on this channel, talking about the new refresh, the new suspension, full new interior, new kind of exterior design, fit and finish. I gotta say, the car is way better than the previous generation Model Y in general. But we're really going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, talking about exterior fit and finish and build quality. The interesting thing about this car is Eric is a content creator, so if you're interested in checking out his YouTube channel, Drive Protected, and he does some incredible content. Love his work. We've become friends just hanging out here at the shop, nerding out, detailing, PPF, ceramic coatings, all of that fun stuff. But really what it came down to is when Eric picked this car up, he texted me and said, dude, I really wanted to refuse delivery, but I needed to make content with it. So what was kind of your feelings with that?
Yeah, so it really started off when I was in the Tesla dealership in Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's my my nearest Tesla dealer to me. And I saw them bring the car out and they had the bow on it and had my name. And I'm like, oh, sweet, this I'm getting the amazing Tesla delivery experience here. And I went out and right away, his first thing I noticed was they had the rear wheel impact area paint protection film on the lower doors, and they just barely installed them before bringing the car out. And they didn't really even squeegee any of the water out. They just kind of left it on there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll send you some videos of that. I think I actually still have some. But I thought to myself, wow, if this is setting the standard of what's to come, what else am I going to find? Going back to what I was saying earlier, I want to get these DIY PPF kits out, so I'm super anxious to start creating these kits, creating the videos that go along with it. And I thought to myself, okay, well, if that's the biggest issue, that's no problem. I can peel that off, and I'm going to anyways. So I drive it about 70 miles back to my shop, and I bring it into the shop, and I actually start getting into it, and I do a wash. And I start sending Colton pics and videos of stuff. We'll walk around the car and we'll kind of go over what was all seen. And he's got some content that I shared with him that will be in this video as well too. But there was dust nibs, deep scratches that were in the actual base coat of the paint and then just clear coated over. There was obviously panel gaps, misaligned, and then I feel like I'm missing the big, there was something that was dragged across the front of the hood that left all kinds of scratches in the vehicle. And honestly, like I started to feel, once I was done the wash, I started to feel like I should have just refused the delivery. Ugh. And who knows how long it would take to actually get the car then, but I literally felt like I should have just refused delivery because it was so bad. None of these things should have ever made it to the customer. These things should have been taken care of at the manufacturer, and if the manufacturer missed it, the service center, the dealer should have been able to pick it up and fix these things. But they're so quick and ready to get these things out as soon as they get off the truck that they don't really care, as was evident by the rear wheel impact area PPF. So yeah,
I think that's a topic we talk a lot about here with Tesla. Is my impression from Tesla as of recent and kind of the past couple of years is they produce cars extremely quickly. Tesla is selling a lot of electric cars all over the entire world. 4 different factories. Essentially, we have 2 here. Of course, Austin and Fremont. And then you go to Shanghai, you go to Berlin. Now, you actually had a Shanghai Model 3 Highland.
Yes.
And I unfortunately never got the chance to do a build quality.
Yeah.
Your impression was that car was like extremely well built, one of the best Teslas you've ever seen.
Yeah, so that car, I picked it up last July and it's got just shy of 40,000 kilometers on it. And I don't know what that is in miles. But that car, I thought the paint was really good. Yeah, there's orange peel in there. There's the odd dust nib here or there, but there weren't no scratches. The panel gaps were all really well.
It was tight.
Yeah, it was really good. And even after all the near 40,000 kilometers of driving, the car is still rock solid. There's no rattles anywhere. And I think I gave you a ride in it in November.
Yeah,
and you're like,
I couldn't believe it.
You're like, wow, there's no rattles. And I'm like, what do you mean? Isn't this the standard?
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah.
Shanghai seems to be one of those, and I promise I will get a Shanghai car on this channel. Model Y, Model 3 needs to happen. We'll figure out a way. Yeah. But really, going back to Tesla, my experience, my impression with them is they're producing cars so quickly. You go to a dealership on any given weekend, Out of Spec Dave has talked about this a lot. He'll go out to Mount Kisco. They're delivering over 100 cars a day. That is unheard of at a traditional legacy dealership. I mean, you walk into a dealership, 7 people are approaching you like, oh my God, we got to sell you a car this second. Yeah. So I think, nitpicking these things is good so that Tesla can see this. This does not mean in these videos I'm trying to trash Tesla. We do this with all manufacturers. We see issues with all manufacturers. Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, Rivian, Lucid, all of these, we go through the same thing. So first off, we're going to start here. I know that was a long intro, but I wanted to give you the backstory of Eric, why he got this car, him wanting to refuse delivery on it, but for content reasons needed to get the car right away. We're going to go through everything and more. And really the big question I have here is, should you try to get an Austin built Model Y, or is Fremont just as good? So one of the cool things with these videos, our build quality assessments, is we have people who have a eye for detail. I am a professional detailer. I've been in the industry for 11 plus years. Eric being a PPF installer, his eyes are just like mine. We are always talking about cars and like, dude, look at this over here. And you show anybody else and like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So first off, we're going to start on the exterior fit and finish, look for panel gaps and see how this thing's really screwed together. Now this tool in front of me here is my little panel gap measurement tool. Actually very cool, showing up on your stealth gray vehicle here. You can actually see this because it's normally out of focus. But in here, basically, I'm going to be sticking this around the car, getting measurements throughout. Now this is in millimeters. Most cars that I see, Eric, what I kind of want to see on opening areas like the hood, doors, rear trunk is around 4 millimeters. That seems to be kind of industry standard. That's what Singer Porsche goes for. They actually hand shave like their full carbon bodied cars to get them perfect. So areas like this, you're going to see be a lot tighter. So we're going to go through everything. Let's start off here on the hood. So over here, we're looking right about 4 millimeter gap. That actually feels really good. Up here, right about 3.5. Now, one thing I do want to note here, the hood is kind of sunk a little bit. This is something I see a lot on Rivians. I don't know if you can actually see that. My finger kind of wobbles. Down here, this is very flush. In the middle, yeah, the hood's a little bit lower. One thing that I've been kind of talking about with the new Model Y that kind of drives me nuts is how they've split up this light bar basically into 3 sections, because when I look at this doesn't line up and my OCD drives me nuts. When I come to here, it actually lines up relatively nice. You'll notice here a little bit larger gap. Let's see how it looks side to side here. So this is a little bit tighter than 3 millimeters here. Over here, yeah, you can see about 5, maybe even close to 5.5 there. So already noticing here some alignment issues. Now, your impression, you just did Brandon's Model Y.
Yeah.
You didn't see much of anything in terms of panel gaps and fit and finish, right?
No, everything looked really, really good compared to this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of already building the story here so far. I'm already noticing how much tighter this is here compared to this. So again, we can measure this here, get a little bit of a gap. So that's right about 4. And this is well under 3. I can see that. So very tight there. So hood already out of alignment. So that's not great, to be totally honest. Up here, hood is almost perfectly flush. So that side, we've got a little bit sunken down. You guys may be able to see that over there. Not so great, I would say, but the gapping here actually looks pretty good, right under 4, and again, down here, under 3. So a little bit of alignment issues going on there. I'm not gonna go through all the new features of the Model Y because we've already kind of done that on this channel. We're really just doing the checks here. I do have to say though, the headlights, or I guess these are actually the DRLs, headlights are down here. These actually look like they fit really well, Eric. Do you see anything else here on the front that was like standing out to you?
No, I think the front, from my eyes, I think it looks okay.
Yeah, this looks pretty good throughout here. You can see how tight this line is. I think on this side, this is all looking very good. One thing I didn't notice and didn't point out in my last build quality video, they moved the tow hook over to the passenger side from the driver's side.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Not sure and that as a PPF installer, that always threw me for a loop because I would start at the tow hook on the driver's side and then I would work my way over. So I got to rewire my brain around that one.
Sure. So let's move around the passenger side here. First off, I want to look here. This is actually looking pretty fantastic if I say so myself. This body line looks really good. Nice tight lines throughout. This is something actually funny enough, the Macan, we did a full build quality $140,000+ MSRP, whatever it was. This was way out of alignment. So what we're seeing here, Fremont Model Y, actually more impressive than a Macan Turbo, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, no kidding.
This over here looks pretty good. I would say this fender kind of sits in a little bit, but I kind of think this is design intent.
Okay.
Do you think so? Do you remember any of that?
Honestly, I think from my perspective, and I don't do build quality analysis like you do, I've never seen it go in that far. So for me, that kind of like stuck out to me, like maybe there's an issue there, but that could be a design
Maybe I've seen them so many times like this that I'm just like, oh, it's how it should be. So
all I know is that for installing PPF, the squeegee grabs onto the A-pillar, which it never used to.
Yeah, you can see this gap here is, it's not very flush, but this looks pretty good up here. So it seems like this is sucked in slightly too far. And then you kind of get this weird little trim that is sticking out over this trim. It doesn't feel like that's right, but I don't know. I guess it may be. Over here, the new fender flares, I like these so much better than previous gen Model Y because they're more robust now, right? I think that's the best way to say it because the old ones were flush against the panel. This has this extra crease or a little bit higher quality plastics. I think this was a much needed improvement and I'm impressed with these, how well they fit. Now you've already actually taken them out and put them back on, correct?
Yeah, and I found on the previous generation Model Ys that if you take them off too many times, depending how aggressive you are with it, it's very easy to bend them and leave crease marks in there.
Yeah.
And those crease marks, you got to replace it. They're not going away. You can't fix that.
Yeah, it is really crazy with Teslas how you just yank on something and you can just pull parts out. Like this literally is just clipped in. You just give it a good solid yank and it's out. There's no screws, no hardware, just a bunch of plastic clips. Let's look here on door to this front fender. Looking here, this looks okay. You can see it's slightly off. I wouldn't ever say anybody's going to notice that, but let's get a good kind of measurement in here. So actually pretty tight tolerances here. I'm seeing right around 4 there. Down here, I hope you guys can see that. It's hard to do both of these at the same time. Right about 4 millimeters. So that gap, it looks slightly thick to me here, but it actually I think looks relatively decent throughout.
Yep.
Now, as we move down here to the passenger side door, I'm already seeing a big issue here, and you've been telling me about this also.
Yeah, this trim sits up way too high. At first I thought, okay, maybe this thing wasn't pushed down all the way. So I removed it, wrapped it with my PPF, and then when I reapplied it, yeah, no, it definitely is sitting as far down as it can go, but it's not lined up over here.
Yeah, it's definitely not. You can see this, and then it's kind of contorted up. And again, I know somebody's going to comment, well, you pulled it off. This isn't representative. This is how it was before. These kind of go back into the same spot. I mean, you have a little leeway to like come back. That's why I always talk about in these videos, like some of these things on certain cars, I can actually go in and fix, which is nice.
Yeah.
Some of them have been really off. This isn't something you can just take that piece off and try and rearrange it. Something's definitely off there. And I think this door is sitting ever so slightly higher here, which is making it worse up in that region.
Yeah, that totally could be.
Totally agree there. So let's look here. Definitely notice your front door sticks out just a little bit. My Model 3, dude, so I have a 2023 Model 3 Performance.
Yep.
All four doors immediately had to get kind of redone. So they had to come in, adjust all of the bolts and, you know, the striker plates and all of that stuff. That's not a fun experience on a brand new car that you just spent a lot of money. We didn't even talk about the price of the new Model Y here for a second. The launch series, $59,990. You basically get whatever color, whatever interior, whichever wheels you want, full self-driving included, tow hitch package included. Acceleration boost. It's actually, when you put all of that together, getting, you know, a $2,000 paint here, the $1,000 interior, I don't even know what these wheels are going to go for.
Probably $2,000 at least.
$1,500, $2,000. It's actually a relatively good deal. If you don't pay for FSD like me, it's an $8,000 waste. So I would definitely wait if you're not going to be purchasing a new Model Y with FSD. Down here, I'm noticing some kind of goofiness down here though, Eric. And it just seems like that rear door is actually now sticking out slightly to me, especially in this particular area. I don't know if it's just the angle. It just looks a little off to me. Let's get some measurements.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have right about 3.5 there. Again, pretty tight tolerances throughout. 4 there, down here above 4. So that door, there's some stuff going on. I'm also noticing the fender up here is actually sticking out a little bit. Boop, at the bottom there. And the top, are you noticing?
Yeah, right over here.
Okay.
Actually, maybe it's just the reflection, but it kind of looks like the fender sticks out a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
I can definitely pick it up on camera. It's very slight. Down here, I notice it definitely a little bit more. I want to go through and do all of the doors. Brandon's car from Austin actually had an issue with this particular door closing. I think it was the seals, but I also think it's kind of the striker plates. That closes amazingly nice. That feels very premium, a nice quiet sound. Your driver's side door though definitely doesn't sound like that. Let's see what this front door is. That's perfect. I think that is really nice. One cool thing Tesla has done with software, which I don't understand why they haven't done on older cars. So on new Model 3, new Model Y, when you roll the window all the way down, let's do that real quick if you don't mind, Eric. I know it's going to streak your glass because we just washed this thing. Eric drove, of course, all the way from his hometown. This is the cool thing though, as you saw that glass sat up there. That's so the glass doesn't rattle when you actually close it. Mine, when I roll the windows all the way down, even if I open the door, they stay down and the glass just shakes in there.
Oh no.
So you get this huge rattle and they do that immediately. So you go to open this, boom, that glass pops up. I don't know why they can't do that to old Model 3, old Model Y. Seems like an easy software fix. So Tesla, if you're watching this, would love to see that fixed. Coming back here to the rear door, rear quarter panel, this is actually looking extremely nice. Even the trim here, this one's slightly up. I would say this is pretty great throughout here. Let's take some quick measurements here. Right about 4, exactly where you'd want it. Right about 4, a little bit tighter up here, but I think that's looking pretty good. Eric, one of the areas on Brandon's car that was of note for me, his rear hatch was like the worst part. And this for Tesla has been, I would say, one of the worst areas. I don't know why they struggle so much with this rear hatch, but they've totally redesigned this. So can you explain what's different on this hatch versus the Model Y other than the light bar?
Yeah, so they decided to take this U-shaped piece. Instead of it being one piece, they decided to make it 3 pieces. And as far as a paint protection film installer's perspective goes, this just became a whole lot easier to wrap and install PPF on. But I've noticed that paint quality issue. I'm probably getting ahead of myself here.
Yeah, you're okay. I mean, you totally talk about it. These videos out of spec, we're all over the place. You know, this is just kind of a mind experiment of how we talk through things, but it is an important note here. So definitely talk about it.
Yeah. So I found, and you won't really see it with the matte PPF on there. I feel like this was spray painted in a field
Okay.
in 80-mile-an-hour winds, and it was just quickly done with a rattle can.
Dust nibs, orange peel.
Yeah, or I didn't see any dust nibs, but there was all kinds of orange peel, and it was blotchy. It looked really bad.
Okay.
And I didn't see this on Brandon's.
Nope.
And even some of this, I even noticed on the A-pillars. In fact, even under the right light, you can actually kind of see a little bit of that.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if the camera can actually pick that up.
Oh, I can definitely see that. You see kind of those like lighter splotches throughout there. Interesting. I've been noticing that on Quicksilver. It's like they get almost like too much metallic in one area and not enough in another area. And you kind of see these darker, lighter spots. We'll talk more about paint. Again, we're going to go through some of the issues that Eric found on this. But yeah, the new hatch is definitely different, and it definitely still has issues. We're just working on Brandon's Austin built Y.
Yeah.
And something is leaking back here. So much so that actually when you open this up, this entire carpet piece here of his was completely and absolutely soaked. And we actually pulled these little drain plugs out here. I'm curious if yours has water in it as well. Nothing. Brandon's was just absolutely pouring water. So some leaks in there. If you have a new Model Y, please keep an eye on that, because that could cause some serious damage. But again, that carpet was completely soaked there. Dude, I gotta say, actually, your hatch is better than the Austin built car, which I am shocked by, because Fremont has really struggled with that. So let's look at some of these areas. First off, looking at this, wow, dude, this looks great through here. This is an area they always struggle. What you'll normally see is it's like really tight on one side, huge gap on the other side. How's this thing look over here? It's a little tighter. It actually is. So exactly what I was saying. Yeah, that's pretty close. I mean, you're not going to stick much of anything in there. I can barely get a fingernail. So same thing going on. But your hatch does look better. So that is a notable thing to mention.
One thing I noticed though right now, with the way the light bar and the charge port cover is, you can see that gap there. And then if you come around over here, you can see that it's more even. But this piece on the rear hatch sits a little bit higher than the rear fender. Yeah,
it does. So still some alignment things. I guess one of the big things that I've noticed on your car versus Brandon's is this area. He has a huge gap on his, so much so that you literally put one of your PPF squeegees, sat it here on like this little bench, closed it, and it didn't even affect it closing because the gap is so big. This looks a lot better throughout. So honestly, this side looks really good. This other side doesn't look so good. Yeah, dude, this is not looking great here. First off, your charge port door is nearly touching the paint there. You have a huge gap. This is one of those cases like the whole thing needs to come like this. Actually, look at the gap down here. Yeah, that looks actually pretty bad. And then again, almost touching here, bigger gap. So some weirdness going on here. It actually opens really nice. It just seems like it needs one of those twists on it. Have you ever had one of these kind of configured, I guess, or like have they tried to fix any of that?
No.
Because I've actually had some that touch paint on the cars, and like I've tried to give it a good little shove, and it seems like it helps it for a few closes, and then it still goes back to doing
my Model 3 from Shanghai was perfect, so I never had to deal with anything like that. So.
Fair enough. Gosh, these darn Shanghai cars. I wish we could get those cars here, because I feel like a lot of these issues would be gone. So back here, as you guys know, this very cool light bar, this texture in here matches the interior texture. I really like the new design of this. Some interesting notable parts here from you, Eric. The bumpers are now separate on each side. So instead of having paint all the way under here, what is your impression? Because my impression is this is going to get absolutely destroyed, this plastic area, but at least it's not paint.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it. I think from a PPF installer's perspective, this makes the install so much easier. I'm always resorting back to that. But yeah, no, definitely. When you pop this hatch open, if you want to slide, you're going to have to be really careful taking things in and out that way, make sure that it doesn't drop on there and damage that.
Because if you do damage this, this is all one piece. I'm surprised they didn't do the same thing they did on like the top hatch here and kind of split this up, because this is going to get destroyed. And with plastic, you just have to replace it. There's no like polishing it. There's nothing you can do. That is a full replacement, which is literally this entire piece. Yeah, it's crazy. One thing I want to note that always makes me laugh, every time I've been walking past your Model Y and Brandon's, I keep doing this. It is the tiniest sounding metal back there. It is ultra thin.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
I really hope that those don't just like ding like crazy. How many Model Ys have you seen in your shop that this is damaged from people hitting the hatch on the garage door? Many. Same.
Even brand new ones with like less than 1,000 miles on it. Like
it's crazy.
It's wild.
It's because that hatch is so tall here. It's pretty crazy. So another notable thing I want to mention back here is the bumpers. This actually lines up almost perfect. Like this is really, really nice. I want to look at this gap here. Yours actually sits even more flush. So some interesting things here is parts of your hatch are better than Brandon's. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you've only had 2 cars in here, but I've been hearing from a lot of Fremont owners that they've been having a lot of issues, and it seems like Austin cars have been better in general. But I'm noticing here, I feel like your hatch is actually more dialed in than Brandon's is. So that's a good thing, because that was my biggest gripe. But one thing I am noticing here, this bumper sticks out farther than the actual hatch here. As you'll see, that is like almost perfect there. And as you can see on this side, it's sticking out a little bit. So still some room for improvement. That kind of stuff, I think Tesla just needs to dial in. Your trunk also doesn't pulsate like Brandon's does either.
No.
So this has, for the 3rd time, let's open this up. That is super smooth throughout, very quiet, and closes extremely quiet. So that is a major improvement. I don't know if Brandon's just has like one that is pushing too hard and it kind of is like freaking the motors out or whatever it is in there, but that's pretty interesting. Over here, same thing. This bumper looks great throughout. One notable thing on color difference on your car, your bumpers are actually darker than your paint. Brandon's were actually lighter, which is really weird. I'll put up some photos of Brandon's car here, especially his front bumper was definitely way off. So moving to this side here, glass is looking pretty good, except I'm noticing some warping. Can see like this area here, can see quite a big gap, and then there it's like basically flush throughout. That's a little weird. The new silver tinted glass, what have you noticed in terms of heat rejection? I know it's been cold, it's been rainy, but have you noticed anything with that?
I honestly haven't noticed anything yet with it.
Hasn't been warm enough.
Oh, it's been fun. Well, it has not been hot enough for me to actually really notice it.
Yep. Okay. But fair enough. Yeah, I have noticed it's been really good. Brandon's been telling me the same. So seems like a good improvement there. Let's move here to the driver's side. So this over here, looking very nice throughout. Doors looking pretty good here. Let's take a quick measurement here if we can. Right under 3, a little above 3.5. And right at 4. So I would say, honestly, looking at it looks pretty good, slightly off in terms of the measurement. I do want to see your door here. Let's see how this closes. Perfect. Fine. This is the door though, Eric, you're having some issues. So let me zoom this out and see if you can see what's going on and hear it. It didn't do it as bad there, but the glass is like
worse from the inside.
Yeah, the glass is like wobbling here. You can definitely notice it up here in this particular area. Watch when this glass closes up here. You can see it just kind of shudder. And we just washed the car, so the seals are naturally a little bit softer right now, but it's been making this kind of nasty rattle. Eric, that is one of the first things he told me when he got here to the shop. Now, door-to-door alignment here, this actually looks pretty good. Noticing this is a little tighter, but it looks like Eric got these perfectly back in. This fits okay so flush. The front door is sticking out ever so slightly compared to the rear door. I would say it's okay. Throughout down here, actually looking very flush down here, so that's really good. Noticing though the same area up here, you can see that front fender sitting out a little bit there, which is really kind of strange. I'm not sure why this area is like that, but you'll notice this fits very nice, this fits nice, this fits nice. Eric, on this side, it looks a little bit better actually what we were talking about before, this isn't so pushed in. So that's good.
Yep.
This looks better too. This isn't so far out. So yeah, some interesting things here. I wouldn't say it's actually as bad as I expected on exterior fit and finish. Now the paint is another story.
Yes.
So we're gonna overlay some clips here, talk a little bit about the paint. One of them that we can actually see, which is really interesting, because Eric says, you know, with stealth film, kind of hides a lot of stuff. Hides dust nibs, lots of scratches, water spots, things like that. But this dude, holy smokes. This looks like they got a dust nib. Somebody went in there with like, I don't know, a screwdriver and tried to get it out and was just like, oh, I left it. The other notable thing here is this scratch right here in your glass was there on delivery day.
It was, yeah.
That's not good. Are there some other areas we can actually see on here, or just some of the overlay clips?
So we got a big dust nib right over here on the corner.
Okay.
And
yeah,
you can kind of feel that one a little bit there. I guess for some overlaid clips, you know, right over here was where we had all the scratches on the back of the hood.
Okay.
That looked really bad. Probably the worst area that I found was back here on the driver's side rear fender. Is there will have been a dust nib or something right over here, and they sanded that out and they did nothing with it. And there's just this big round sanding mark right there.
Okay. So that's something I notice a lot is, it's funny because I really feel like Tesla doesn't go in and quality control their cars. It's very strange. Like Model 3 Performance and Quicksilver. Quicksilver, I actually feel like has been the worst color as of late with Tesla in terms of paint quality. One of the cars, I'll leave a link in the description below. Quicksilver Model 3 Performance, dude, hundreds of dust nibs everywhere. That was one of the posts where I literally posted on Twitter asking Tesla if they're painting Fremont cars in the parking lot, because it was so bad. It looks like a dust storm came in and they just like shot paint all over it.
Yeah.
That to me is mind-blowing, because you would think these cars are painted robotically. They're painted very methodically. I don't understand how they're getting so much contamination. That is quite literally just having a dirty paint booth, which is not something you want to have.
Not when you're paying 87,000 Canadian.
That's
for
so
a Model
much
Y launch.
Every time he's been here talking about money and he spits out some Canadian number, I'm like, oh my God, that is so expensive. 87,000 Canadian dollars here for a Model Y.
Before tax.
Holy smokes, that's insane. One thing I want to note here, surprised this isn't making noise. Can you see your sunroof up there, that little gap? It's like perfectly flush over here, and you've got a little gap right there.
Yeah, that's right over
weird.
here.
Yep, exactly.
You can actually feel that when you run your hand along that.
I'm honestly surprised that doesn't whistle in the car.
Yeah.
Because this car is surprisingly quiet. Now, one other interesting note here is you are actually on the Helix wheels here. So these are a 20-inch wheel. These have the Hankook Ion Evos, which are rumored to be one of the most efficient tires. Now, if you're interested about new Model Y efficiency, head over to Out of Spec Testing, where we ran Brandon's new Austin-built Model Y with 18-inch wheels against the previous generation Model Y, doing all the different comparisons. Actually, those weren't 18s, right?
19s.
They're 19s. I don't know why I thought they were 18s, but these are really quiet. The car feels actually very different. I expected this to ride harsher on these wheels. I actually think the contrary. I think this car rides better than Brandon's does on the smaller wheels, which is really interesting. I think there's a lot of tire tech. Tesla has been talking about this as of recent. If you listen to Lars, you listen to, what is his name? Woodhouse. I forgot. Franz. If you listen to Franz, they've been talking about how much tire technology has gone into these cars. If you guys don't know, tires play one of the biggest roles in terms of your NVH, the quietness, the comfort of your ride, the handling, of course, and as well in electric cars, your efficiency. You put a sticky summer tire on these cars and your range goes crazy downhill. You put a winter tire, that can also be the case. There's a lot of tire technology, a lot of acoustic noise. I honestly think these tires are way better. Now, one other interesting point I want to note here, on the smaller wheels, there are 3 different tires for the new Model Y. There's a Continental, there's a Pirelli, and there is a Hankook. I believe the Hankooks come out of Shanghai, the Continentals come out of Fremont, and the Pirellis come out of Austin. I'm not sure how that all works, but you're going to get a very different tire experience. This is not dissimilar as what happens with Tesla. I'll see a lot of, Model Y performances come in on a Michelin Pilot Sport All Season 4. And then I've seen some come in on PS4Ss and Pirelli P0s. So there are different tire options. I think if you're going to get one, this setup here looks awesome. Yes, they're an upcharge, especially if you don't have new Model Y launch series. But man, I think these are awesome. So a lot of testing coming up here on the Out of Spec testing channels. So overall feelings of build quality on the exterior. Honestly, dude, I actually think it's pretty decent. This was
Fremont?
For Fremont. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as tight as Austin, but on the other side, like Brandon's car had more issues in the rear trunk. Like he's having leaking issues. Of course, we didn't see that, on our first video. This was after we've had some rain here in Colorado. I feel like his hatch was way worse than yours, but overall, I actually think it's relatively decent. Now, there are a few areas like we talked about. This hood, this doesn't align with that over there. You can see some of these gaps where like this isn't perfect. But overall, my feeling is I'm actually pretty surprised this is a Fremont car and not an Austin built car. So I do think that is good. Next, I want to jump inside. We're going to talk about some interior materials, talk about some weird things that have been happening with Model Y launch editions and like different colored pieces on different cars, which is very strange. So let's jump inside. All right, so jumping inside Eric's new Model Y here. First off, the new interiors, bar none, awesome, dude. They have really improved this entire interior. I'm a big fan of pretty much all Tesla's new interiors. Now, if you don't like minimalist style, probably not the car for you. The cool thing in here though, Eric, there's like no plastic.
Yeah.
At all. Like you look down at the doors here, this is all vegan type material down here. It's all vegan leather. Now, I talk about this a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, I want leather because it's more premium. This stuff actually wears amazingly well compared to real leather. You can like put dogs in your car. You can clean up the seats. White seats are incredibly easy to clean, maintain. It's been pretty incredible to say the least. The one weird thing though here is you have the actual proper dash piece. So when you get the white interior, it is supposed to match this. In Brandon's car, this was micro suede.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
And his is still this color too.
Right. So he's got like one of those kind of unicorn ones, if you will. What sounds like happened is the first batch of Austin cars, they didn't actually have this piece in inventory, so they just stuck the black interior one on there. Because naturally, through Tesla, they actually sold out of the white interior on launch edition cars because it is so popular. Most of the
sold
Teslas
out fast too.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, I would say 75% of Teslas have the white interior. There's a reason for that. They're easy to clean. They look amazing. They add some brightness, some airiness to the car. It's dramatically improved. Now, one thing I want to talk about in terms of build quality on the car, NVH. So NVH stands for noise, vibration, harshness. What are your thoughts on how this thing rides, the kind of road noise coming through, wind noise coming through?
So I'm not going to compare I'm not going to compare this to my Shanghai build Model 3, but I did have a 2022 Model Y Performance, which also came out of Fremont, and I feel like I'm driving in a Rolls Royce compared to that car. That car was extremely harsh to drive. There was noise everywhere.
Wind noise, road noise, impact noise from the suspension. Now, the cool thing with new Model Y here is the new suspension in this is called the frequency intelligent dampers. They actually don't have electronic control to them like the Model 3 Performance Highland does. And it's really interesting because Kyle did a review on driving the new Model Y, and I felt this as well. I was kind of surprised a little bit of, I would say, the harshness of the ride. I wouldn't call it harsh, but you kind of feel a lot of the little bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But when you get big impacts, that's where it really softens everything up. So I actually think Tesla did an amazing job on this suspension. It still feels kind of sporty to where you could like take it in the canyons and like drive quickly and have fun with it. But on the flip side, be comfortable on highway and everything like that. I drove your car earlier today. No creaks or rattles in here that I could hear at all. Brandon actually did have one in his. One area that I've been hearing this a lot in new Model 3s, which is this same exact dash piece here. If you get a performance with the carbon one, the clips rattle. Yours is almost dead silent. I can kind of hear a rattle over there if you smack it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But we're not hearing that while driving, so that is good. But the carbon ones have been a massive problem. All the Model 3 Highland performances that I've done, pretty much every single one of them rattles. But lots of great interior improvements in here. I really think they knocked this car out of the park. I mean, for the price point, the quality, the feel of the materials is so elevated compared to older Teslas. And I guess other cars as well. Like you compare this to my EV6, this feels like a premium car where the EV6 feels very much like an economy type car. So very impressed. Now, a few notable things here that the new Model Y got is kind of this stitching over here. And I can actually see a bad stitch right there. Can you see it, Eric?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That drives me nuts sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Luckily from the driver's seat, that is out of your line of sight.
Yeah, it's right behind here.
Perfect. So don't have to worry about it. Your passengers can be like,
sight,
wow, what a terribly built car, Eric.
Yeah.
How about the driver's side? Does that look all pretty straight throughout there?
Yeah, everything seems pretty straight here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, not seeing much differences on interior-wise, Austin versus Fremont. I feel like they're both very quiet. They ride very well. Wind noise is unbelievably quiet in these cars. The only thing I'm going to say on these wheel and tire setup, I feel like you have a lot less road noise than Brandon had on the smaller wheels with the Pirelli Scorpion MS tires.
That could be. I haven't had a chance to really drive his.
I definitely felt like it. I mean, I got in this car today just to run to lunch really quick, and I was like, damn, this thing is so quiet. So interesting notes there. I think tires play a lot more role into, you know, the quietness of the cabin than most people think. Any other notable things on the interior? Have you noticed anything that's off, or have you been pretty impressed with it so far?
I've honestly been really impressed with the interior. My 22 Model Y, like that thing, everything rattled.
And plastic everywhere.
Yeah, and actually, funny story, in my 22 Model Y, this piece rattled like crazy. And while I would be driving, I would always just like give it a couple taps and it would go away for at least a few miles, until the one day I got really frustrated and I just went like this. And I didn't hit it all that hard, but I must have, because it shattered the windshield.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's $1,800 Canadian to replace.
That's getting pissed at your car rattling so much that you actually cause more damage to it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. New seats are awesome. So these are basically the same seats that come in your Model 3 Highland. Heated, cooled. They're pretty awesome. I still think the old seats are slightly more comfortable, but these are a nice upgraded seat, having the ventilation in them. Really nice throughout. Back seat here. Not much notable things to talk about here other than, you know, we've done these videos before. We've talked about the new back seat, the new power folding rear seats. These are freaking awesome. The only thing that I really want to note, so that Tesla hears this, dude, you have an absolute mail slot of a rear window when you look out of the rear view mirror. I could not believe getting in this thing.
It's not much.
It is crazy. Like it feels kind of like you're driving a Cybertruck where you can't really see what's behind you.
Yeah, totally.
Because of, you know, the shell in there, and I was just shocked with that. And again, I really think that's down to this kind of new, very bulky headliner design here with this new hump in here. Not sure what this new hump actually is in the car. So yeah, I mean, new interior. It's got to
serve a purpose, right?
I don't know. Tesla's been putting speakers now actually behind pieces. Now, notably, back here, we're going to open this for the 17th time. Tesla used to have this all in plastic, and they have done a ton of noise insulation back here to get rid of the boominess. I'm still hearing a little bit of boominess from this car, and both Brandon's, now that I've driven them both more, but it's way, way less than it is. But going back to speakers, there are actually speakers here behind the carpet. We're not going to pull this down, but Brandon actually broke his after he was trying to figure out what was kind of dripping in here. And it's really interesting. They just put the speakers right behind there. Before, this was all plastic and you would have a normal speaker grill in here. So I'm wondering if they have like a sub or something in there. I mean, this piece is just huge here and I'm not sure what it is. The other weird thing, I think Brandon Flash has been pointing this out, is that the tint doesn't actually come all the way to the back of the glass. Here, this silver coated glass, you can see where the glass ends here, and this is where the tint ends, and you can really actually see it
in here. Yeah.
Do you have any idea of why they would do that?
To me, it looks like they're just cutting corners.
Or is there something like antennas up here or something that doesn't come through this silver coated glass maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. That very well could be.
That would be my main thought. Like this, Brandon had this all apart. There was a bunch of control wires and stuff in here. So I'm really wondering if they're doing, you know, a lot of their cellular, satellite, whatever they're doing in here that wouldn't actually go through that glass. Have you noticed anything like cell phone service being worse in your car, anything like that?
That I have not, no.
Okay, interesting. Because I know actually if you get Audi or Porsche with like their reflective glass, like you can barely use your cell phone in the car because it's so much rejection of everything and trying to insulate the car so much that it becomes a real pain in the butt. Now, one other quick thing I want to bring up. You just drove this car 1,500 miles-ish or so.
That was 1,100.
Yeah. 1,100 miles. So I think I saw like 1,500 on the dash or odometer now. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. You did have a service notification come up. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was about 450-ish miles in, I think it was, somewhere in the middle of North Dakota. And all of a sudden the car started beeping at me and it said gearbox fluid service required or something like that. I don't remember the exact words. I'll send you a photo of it. And then, so instantly it popped up on the owner's manual on the screen while I was driving and it said, okay to drive, but prolonged driving could cause damage to the gearbox.
Which you're like midway in a road trip, halfway there.
And so I actually I contacted Tesla Roadside Assistance through the app, and they called me within 5 minutes. And I asked the guy, I said, you know, I'm headed to Fort Collins, Colorado. That's the next closest Tesla center because I'm in the middle of North Dakota. And from where I am, I think the closest one would have been either Winnipeg, which is where I'm close to where I'm from, or Minneapolis, which I'm kind of like in a dead zone here. There's nothing in Montana, there's nothing in South Dakota, and there's nothing in Wyoming.
Funny enough, I actually think our Loveland Service Center here takes care of a lot of those customers out there. Yeah, because they'll do they take their, you know, Model S or Model X service up into like deep up into Wyoming, even into the Dakotas, which is insane. So this is like the northernmost on this route of I-25 up. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, ugh.
So I was talking to him on the phone, told him where I was going. I said, am I good to drive? Because I don't want to stop here. And the guy's just like, oh yeah, just go there, make a service appointment, and then try and get into the local service center, which would be Loveland. And so I got a service appointment for Friday morning.
Yep. Okay. So hopefully that gets fixed. Hopefully you have oil in your gearbox in here.
Yeah.
That is just really strange for a brand new car.
But one thing about that, what I noticed is I pulled over on the side of the highway. I did a hard reset on the car and it went away. And then about 15 miles after I started driving, it came back. And then every time I would stop and charge, it was about 15 to 25 miles. Then it would come back on. But then I stopped in Gillette, Wyoming for night. And then I woke up the next morning, continued to drive, and it hasn't come on since. So I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly show you service mode in here so you can see what that actual alert looks like. So into service mode now. Service mode is unbelievably cool if you don't know about this. I'm sure you've probably seen it before. Dude, I showed you this earlier though. These are all of the different alerts your car has had. I don't know if some of these are bad. It doesn't seem like these are anything crazy destructive, but it's like very interesting to come through here and just like, this is integrated dynamic brake pedal simulator pressure sensor message issue. So you have an issue with your brakes, which is not great. That's weird. Clear condition. I mean, the amount of data in here is insane. So I believe I found this. I cannot believe how much is in here. This is insane. So this seems like the one that you were having an issue with.
That's the exact one.
Gearbox fluid service required. So I wonder if they didn't fill it up enough. That is crazy. So this is same thing. So you can come back here and see when it actually came up the first time. That's when it came up.
Yeah. Which, would have been, it's crazy. And then, like, I picked the car up on the 25th. So, like, what's the very first one?
So the 29th, so 4 days after delivery, it looks like you were having some sort. I don't know. These normally don't pop up. This is like back end stuff. I've not seen this many messages. This is kind of interesting. Interior cabin radar electronic control unit detects abnormal blockage readings outside of expected range. So there's a new setup in here. I don't know much about it, but they have an interior radar to detect occupants in here. I think that has a lot to do with how like airbags work in a crash, because if you didn't know, Tesla being one of the safest cars out there, they actually measure your size and weight and where you're sitting in a car and deploy the airbags differently based on if there's a child sitting in this seat, like, or a smaller kid, and, you know, someone like us sitting in the driver's or passenger seat. It is unbelievably fascinating, the amount of technology that goes in here. But I definitely wanted to make that point because that's a really frustrating thing. Like, dude, your car is brand freaking new and you're kind of having a few issues. If we go back in here to software, so you have 1,419 miles on the odometer, and having your gearbox low of oil, like maybe if you drive this home and didn't have the chance to get it serviced here, like,
who knows,
does it just explode and leave you stranded on the road? Like, that's a major annoying issue. So let's give you our final thoughts on the Model Y Launch Edition built in Fremont. So we're going to run through kind of final thoughts and feelings here. Now, I am by no means making excuses for Tesla here, because I do think there are a lot of areas they still need to fix. Having areas like your charge port door being way out of alignment, almost touching in an area, having stuff like this, your door not closing properly and being kind of loud and rattly, that stuff's annoying when you just spent 87,000 Canadian on a car, or $60,000 here in the States. That seems to be a little annoying. Now, do I think a lot of people are going to care about all this stuff? Maybe not. But again, the intention behind these videos are so that manufacturers can see these. They can look at areas that are known issues on these cars and hopefully fix them so that the service centers don't have to deal with them. You have better customer experience when you take delivery of the car. I am by no means making, again, a exemption for Tesla. They sell a lot of cars. A lot of cars go through their showrooms on a daily basis. But I still think they should be making quality products. And I definitely think with the new Model Y, new Model 3, they have made improvements, but there's still some more massaging to go. Yeah. What do you think?
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on a personal note, I think that, yeah, they're so quick to pump, like they're pumping out so many units of these vehicles every single day. And they've got such an incredible customer buying experience. You go through the app, you buy it, it takes you 5 minutes, and then when it comes time to actually take delivery of the car, you're in and out of the dealership within 15 to 30 minutes. I think the dealers should spend more time on the cars to make sure that they're better, because now I don't want to get off on a tangent here. We've been going long enough.
Do tangents. We don't care. This is out of spec. It's long form.
If you think when you're buying from a legacy auto manufacturer, let's say Ford, for example, it's a long and painful buying process. Yes. Even if you're walking in there and you want to pay cash for the car, you're in there for hours signing papers. You got to come back a different day, sign more papers and that type of thing. But more often than not, they deliver a better quality vehicle, in my opinion. And I think Tesla, I'm not saying Tesla has to go to that where we got to spend hours at the dealership, but I think they could spend a lot more time on the vehicle to make sure that a lot of these issues, how long would have taken to fix these issues before this went out the door? Maybe 5 more minutes on the vehicle?
Yeah, I think this really comes down to like quality control at the factory. I personally don't agree with the kind of philosophy of pump the cars out of the factory, make the service centers deal with it, because then that clogs everything else up. Just like our Cyber Beast that just went down and is, potentially going through a lemon law, buyback experience, whatever the case may be, you have to deal with those cars still. So we had a dead Cybertruck that sat in Kyle's garage for 11 days. Yeah. For a lot of people, and I brought this up in some of the videos we talked about, if this is your only car and this is your mode of transportation that you rely on, having a dead car for 11 days is not acceptable. Now, on the other hand, Kyle just did a service appointment for our local Rivian store here.
2 months.
2 months. That's insane. So some things like that need to get fixed. So that's why I'm saying, in my personal opinion, Tesla needs to really spend more time on quality control at the factory instead of letting the service centers dealing with it. If it takes a few extra days to get your car, you get a better car and a better experience to where you're not buying a new car, immediately taking it to the service center because of found issues. I think that's an overall better experience.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the service center would then be able to spend more time working on like legitimate problems that do come up in your vehicle should that come up. You know, if let's say, for example, I want to get this gearbox fixed, I would be able to get into the dealer within a couple of days as opposed to 10, 15 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, that type of thing.
But on the flip side, you actually are getting into the dealer relatively quick, within a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
Within a week time frame.
Yeah.
That seems somewhat reasonable to me, but having like a dead truck sitting in your garage is kind of
that should be like next day type.
I totally agree with that. So there's some more things. We're always going to continue building this story. I feel that we're very fair on all cars. I am not a supporter of any single OEM manufacturer. Yes, I own a Tesla. I also own Kias. We've owned Volkswagens. I will own other OEM vehicles. Rivian R2 is so interesting to me.
Yep.
Rivian's brand is interesting to me. I mean, there are so many cars I want to own to have an experience. And I think it's been an interesting experience with Eric's car here. And I will say, both of us are more particular than your average buyer. So when you texted me and you're sending me photos of dust nibs, like that to us is just like, I spent money on this car. We work our asses off, dude. Like, you and I work very hard. And to be able to buy a car like this, afford a car like this, like you want to, take care of it. Yes, it's just another Tesla for some people on the road, but you're still putting a lot of money out there and you expect a quality product. So to have, misaligned panels and have dust nibs everywhere, sanding marks and stuff like that is frustrating. Now, again, this is not a Tesla only problem. So my feelings, honestly, Fremont versus Austin, not as far different as I thought. There are still issues on this car. There are still issues on the Austin car. Overall, I would maybe kind of give the edge to Austin in terms of more fit and finish.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like Brandon's having some more issues, some like bigger issues, I would say. So it's really interesting. We're going to continue talking about this story as more and more of these new Model Ys come out. Any final thoughts from you, Eric?
No, I think overall, it's a much better car than the previous Model Y. And I say that coming from a 22 Model Y Performance, which was overpriced and was not a very good vehicle. And this is a very, very nice upgrade.
It very much is. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments section below. Would you accept delivery of this car with the known issues it has? Would you be frustrated with it? Would you be extremely pleased with it? I really do think the new Model Y is an unbelievable upgrade over the previous generation. So much so that I actually really want one, which I am shocked to say because I am not a Model Y guy at all. It's been my least favorite Tesla, quite literally, for years and years. So thanks so much for watching another out of spec detailing video. If you're interested in the other build quality, paint quality analysis videos, those will also be in the link in the description below, as well as Eric's info if you would like to stealth out your brand new Tesla. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.